Hi guys, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me fine. It's kind of intimidating to get the microphone after Sasu and his like ability for words. I'm more just like a kitchen person who struggles sometimes, but I hope we can make it work. Um, well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to this course that I think it's just great and something that has been like needed for such a long time. Uh, of these like big disconnections that we've been suffering, like kitchens and agriculture. So thanks for that. For all of you that don't know me, and I think it's most of you, my name is Albert. I came to Barcelona from Barcelona to Finland around 11 years ago, and 5 years ago we just decided with couple friends, now business partners and still friends, to open a restaurant that is called Nolla. Um, we were just happy to open a restaurant, but then after talking a bit, we decided that, yeah, maybe we were not that happy. So we were like thinking what would resonate with us and which like kind of goal and mission we would take as well on board, um, just to kind of like tackle some like a social, let's call it like cause. Uh, Waste came as one of the first topics when talking about it. And that's what Nolla is about. We just wanted to build a model. I'm not sure if zero waste is the right word with it, but we couldn't find a better one. But we just build a zero waste restaurant, like a model that at the end of the day, a restaurant that at the end of the day wouldn't produce any waste, not just on the kitchen side, but like on the holistic view of the restaurant. So Nolla is a restaurant, and we have as well a nano brewery in it. In the center of Helsinki, we have around like 60 seats, and we are doing like a fairly simple food, extremely produce oriented, and using local ingredient, local understood that as a 250 km radius, with like a southern soul. I'm from Barcelona, as I say. My other partner is Portuguese, and the other is Serbian. So it would be a little bit, I don't know how to say, unnatural if I would start cooking Nordic food when I'm not born, raised here, and I don't have a proper understanding of the culture. Nolla has a team at the moment of around 15 people. And with that, I hope you just get like a little picture of what Nolla is. I do a little step, always a little stop, sorry, always at the beginning, because through the presentation probably will come the word sustainability, a word that I'm not sure if it means anything anymore, but at least what it means for me as a sustainability is like, and all the, how to say, it's like, it's just all the good impact that we can do towards environment. There's been a lot of, well, we all know the problems of greenwash, green facades, oil companies being sustainable. And I think it's like fair to do a stop here to make clear that we don't align with people that works in these sustainability terms. As I say, we opened Nolla. Our aim was to not produce waste. And we realized that probably was coming because of working in restaurants. And if all of you probably have seen, to prepare food for like a small amount of customers, especially from my side, coming from fine dining, you could feel bins and bins of waste, not just with food, but with like a carton, with plastic, with everything. I think that whoever has been once in the kitchen has this like very clear image of like a stepping on top of a bean just to add a couple more bucks because we don't wanna, or we don't have a space for it. And that's actually really normal. And I think this is the first problem, that this is not normal. We just reach a point that we normalized so much waste that people doesn't understand anymore what it should not be normal. So I think one of the first fights that we pick with Nolla is to try to denormalize and make people understand, people working with us, even ourselves, or people that wants to know what we do, denormalize this waste that is created. We have a problem, big problem, as I think we all know. So it was time when we opened the restaurant to take action and to take responsibility and time, try to not solve it, but prevent the problem to come. And I think it's as well sometimes like a misconception that we think what we will do with the waste that we create, but maybe we should reverse it and think how we will not create waste on first. How we do that? So Nolla is a normal restaurant. If you walk into the restaurant, you per se cannot understand what are we doing there. We have tables, we have glasses, we have cutlery, we have napkins, we pour wine, we pour beer, we serve food. Dot. It's more like the back of what we do, where there is all the work that we are trying to achieve. And this is as well something important. When customers come to the restaurant, we don't go and, welcome to Nolla, you are in a zero waste restaurant. It's like, welcome to Nolla, you are in a restaurant, have a good evening. Because as a part of this normalization that we've been talking already a lot, if we make people feel that where they are is not normal, I don't think we will never achieve that the practices that we are doing become normal. So we try to don't preach much. If someone asks, what are we doing? How are we doing? We are happy to open a conversation. But this is a time where people should come to the restaurant, sit in a chair, enjoy, have a glass of wine, talk to other people, and let the plates and the drinks speak, not us. When opening a restaurant, first thing that we needed was like materials where, let's call it like to fill the dining room. And we use kind of like a different systems or ideas on how to do that. Tables and chairs, we were looking for a long time. Let's make a little pause here. Nolla is 3 young guys with pocket money opening a restaurant with no investors behind. So everything that we tried to find was way out of our budget. We found these tables and chairs built new, and I think here is what is the first stop. We were like looking a lot for like reused materials to be these tables and chairs, and as I say, it was like impossible for us to afford. And then one of the persons who was producing with like a reused material said, well, maybe you need to think it different and think how long these tables and chairs you are buying will last. And are the materials that you are buying proper materials, and what it could be the second life if one day you decide to stop with the restaurant? Can these chairs and tables be used for someone else? So the idea of like reusing in certain point, it stopped as a, well, maybe if you buy proper like quality and you have a plan in case you don't need to use it anymore, was valid as well. If we check the tables, there is some glasses, cutlery, and napkins. Here there is a different ways. The glasses for the water, they are made from like reused, and in here is where it enters. This kind of like idea of like reversing the supply chain of not buying new things, but like using already existing ones to create another product. We have the glasses coming from like all soda bottles. We have the cutlery that is like a second-hand cutlery, beautiful, that you can find in different shops. We have the napkins that are made from like reuse textiles coming from like different industries. We have the flower pots that are seconds. So we work with the ceramists and what is like something that has a little tara. Don't ask me what that means because I still didn't understood that people cannot sell these ceramics, being very honest with you, but they say that it's seconds that they cannot sell. So we get it happily for the restaurant. And then there is shelves, for example, where we put the glasses that is pieces of wood that they were on the spot when we acquired the restaurant. So as I say, we use a little bit different like ideas, hoping that all of them make sense on what we are doing. And the main one obviously is to try to like prioritize this, like reversing the supply chain and creating new the least that we can. Once we had tables, chairs, cutlery, glasses, we needed food. And I do another stop here because I think one of the biggest misunderstandings and misconceptions when you say zero waste is like, oh, you are the guys who go to like the containers of the supermarkets to get the expired food. Yeah, not really. We don't accept any intercepted food for the reason that we believe that if we wanna change the rotten, in my opinion, food industry that we have at the moment, we cannot keep putting makeup to the big issue that we have. So we believe that by buying these products that are expired because there is overproduction in the system, we are not making any help, but we are like letting companies to keep overproducing and helping them on like a kind of like washing a little bit this overproduction. After that, so as I said before, we work with like a small organic producers, biodynamic, with a local radius of 250 km. That takes as a local some part of Estonia sometimes. I think we use like a couple produce from there. And there is one exception on these 250 km that is Bara, that is coming from 300 km, but I couldn't find a better one. So sometimes I guess 50 km, you need to kind of like let them go. Working with them, it's been great, especially for a foreigner, to understand how the seasons are working in this country and how you can start building menus not from what you want to use, but what the fields have to give you. And I think this is as well one of the main points of Nolla. At Nolla, that are not, the cooks are not deciding what is going to be on the menu, but are the farmers working with them that it's going to decide what is served on the menu. No one, I think, better than them knows what is on its peak, what is the freshest, what is the nicest. So by establishing this conversation between one and the other, we can be serving like as premium as possible. And working with them, and this comes to the second kind of like a main point where how we can achieve this like a zero waste is it's fairly easy, or very easy, I would say, to get produce without single-use packaging. Very important point for us. I will not talk much about it because Sasu did before me much better that I probably can do. But it's like maximizing the use of ingredients. It's like a must if we want to achieve this, like a not producing waste at the end of the day. Not producing waste, not just the visible waste that you can see, but as well like all these invisible waste that sometimes I think we don't talk much about energy consumption to produce, water consumption to produce, respect to the farmers. So I think that is a much bigger layer than just like what we do with this leaf and let's not throw it on the bin, but like what it took to grow this leaf. And obviously as well, we need to start leaving this idea of noble parts, as Sasu was talking, and just like start thinking of what we can do with all these other parts that tradition told us that they are born to be wasted, with no sense whatsoever of the tradition telling us that. Martin, I do hear like a stop because your question, I thought it was very interesting when you asked to Sasu, so what about the big scale restaurants? And I think that for me, the biggest problem there is like we're still seeing noble and non-noble parts of the produce. Like we are not, how to say, thinking how these big restaurants will produce 200 kilos of celeriac a day, but we are thinking how these people are not gonna be able to use the leaves or the roots. Well, what if we reverse it and we just educate people that roots and leaf are as well an ingredient and not like a wasted ingredient? Sorry for the stop, but I thought it was interesting, like the question. And And going back to what I said before, the single-use packaging. So at Nolla, we don't accept anything that comes in a single-use packaging, and by that I mean nothing that it's born to be thrown away. Call it a vacuum bag, call it a styrofoam box for the fish, etc., etc. And we created together with producers or wholesalers or fishmongers a way of how to receive that. Fish is coming with the catering boxes full of ice. Inside of this, there is a GN, so the fish is not affected by the ice. I still can keep the cold chain. Similar we do with the meat. Vegetables, most of them have a skin, so I don't think we even need to think why we are putting vacuum back in a cucumber. Milk and butters. Butters comes wrapped in a compostable paper just to make sure that it doesn't get dirty. And milk, it comes in reusable buckets, as has been done like always. And stepping out of the kitchen, we have, for example, like liquors that are coming from us distillery that it's, I would say, 3 kilometers from the restaurant, Helsinki distillery. And we are getting the liquors like that. So for example, in a canister, we have these like glass vessels where we transfer the liquid and then we just pour in a small bottle. These canisters are 10 liters. The bottles that they sell are 400 mils. So that means that by every canister that we get in, we save like 20 bottles of glass. That doesn't need to be recycle, understanding as using a lot of energy to produce something that is already produced. Another example, it's the coffee. We work with this roastery that is up the street where Nolla it is. This is a very interesting case. Let's call it interesting, let's call it funny. And Sasu, I'm sure, had took many coffees there. But there is the coffee place, you cross one door and there is the roastery. And when we started working with them, we were like, oh, is it possible that you send us the coffee without the vacuum bags? And they were like, yeah, I guess how to. So we found these containers that basically they let the air to come out, but they don't let air to come in. So in that way, you can like keep the organoleptic characteristic of the coffee and doesn't go off, etc., etc. In Finland, people drink so much coffee that we don't need to worry about it because the coffee goes way before it can be spoiled. But the funny part was like that when we started working with them, we're like, shit, you know what I realized? That actually the coffee used in the coffee place, it was vacuum bag as well. So they were roasting vacuum bag, crossing the door, opening the vacuum bag and throwing it on the coffee to grind. And I think it's a very clear picture of like the normalization of waste and not understanding anymore like what is waste or not. These two examples as well, I think that they give like a very good example of that. If one person thinks that by himself or herself will be able to change the world and be zero waste and eradicate the waste, it's a completely fool. It's a big need of like networking, talking to other companies, talking to other restaurants, like how we can solve this problem together. And I think this needs to be, or at least our ideas like needs to be born from the idea of for sure wanted to eradicate what the waste instead of just using it for marketing purposes. As we say before, some people do because greenwashing is very, very present, sadly, in our society. When it comes to the kitchen, as I say before, we don't use any vacuum bags, we don't use cling film, we don't use etc., etc. This is an example of things that we were using very at the beginning. It's candy boxes that you can pick for free actually in the local candy stores. Finnish people eat a lot of candies. So there is always available candy boxes for grabs. And I think it's a good example, but we all know GN containers that they have covers and lids. So no, we don't need to do this like a competitions. I'm sure we all seen in the kitchen who can put the clean field tighter than the other. We have lids to use for that. Or we have cambros that they are like a hard plastic and they are beautiful like to store ingredients or just like to freeze, etc., etc. So there is already solutions instead of these vacuum bags and cling films to use. So we just need to once again, educate and show to people that these solutions are there. This is another example, for example, of a practices that we do. And after a while, we were thinking, okay, ingredients, yeah, okay, drinks, yes, okay, I'm using a ton of soap to clean my kitchen. So we found this company that they are producing these machines, and these machines are doing ozonated water. So they convert H2O to H2O2. Ozone has a massive power disinfectant, antibacterial. So we basically clean everything that can be cleaned with cold water, because with hot water, sadly, ozone evaporates. We clean it with ozonated water. My guys call it holy water because they still don't believe in it. So holy water, it's the name for it. They don't believe at all in it still. And I think this is one of the things that Sasu was saying, that you need to be persistent to make people follow you. But we've been taking like the best grades possible when health inspectors are coming. So I assume that holy water works, even you cannot see it. But with that, and aside of jokes, we could cut 95% of all the soap that was used on all the detergents to wash things that were washed with cold water. And that's going back to what Sasu was saying at some point regarding who doesn't like to have a more profitable business. That's a lot of money at the end of the month that you are saving, aside of not throwing through the drain all these chemicals that shouldn't go there. And the third biggest pillar is the compost. So we don't have bins at the restaurant except these green bins that you see on the back, on the side, sorry, of the compost, that are the ones to keep our, I hate call it bio waste, but I haven't found a better word because it has a value after all. But where we put our bio waste, and basically by not having any plastic, metal, etc., that's the only waste that we created. So we needed to find a solution for it. So using this composter in-house, it was the best way that we thought that it would be solved. So in the kitchen, when we do mise en place or during the service, we always have next to us a couple or 3 containers where we put like our bio waste, for 2 reasons. One, because we don't have bins, as I said before. And second, because I think it's very important visually to understand the waste that you are producing. And this was like one of the first exercises where we did when we're even thinking about how to open this restaurant. And we actually were doing it home. So our partners were very happy to have like all these boxes full of like waste on top of their kitchens when they reach after work. But it was very, very clear to see, okay, why I'm throwing this, why I'm not using this, why, and I start like to thinking of like, yeah, the why. The composter works easily. So you have your boxes on top of the table, you produce the waste. At the end of the day, you throw it into the composter. There is bacteria in the compost, there is puddles that are moving, there is some humidity, and there is temperature. So basically what the machine is doing is kind of like reproduce the perfect conditions to create compost. I think technically it's pre-compost, not compost, but we call it compost because we are just cooks. And here it comes when you would say, yes, Albert, yeah, very, very great. You say you don't have bins, you don't produce waste, but this is a big ass bin in the middle of the restaurant. Here is where it comes in place, this software. So everything that goes inside of the composter, every single day, every single thing is recorded to this software. It's a very easy way to monitor what's going inside of the composter and not to use the composter as a bin. 2 things. The first one, the system is very easy. You have a front page where you need to pick who are you. The second page asks, how it goes. Who are you? The reason why you are putting it on the compost. No, which is the ingredient or like the class of ingredients that you are putting in the composter. Why are you putting it in the composter, and how much you are putting it in the composter. This is like the 4 questions that the software is asking you. And this is the easiest way that we can allocate the hotspots of the operation, and we can solve them. Without data, I think it's very complicated to understand. We have 70 seats. That means we can do like 120, 140 people a night. So the volumes are actually quite big. So to keep track of everything is quite complicated. But with this software, it's been like super sweet. And we actually been solving a lot of problems by understanding of like, there is a lot of these vegetables that are going there. Why? At the moment, if I'm not very wrong, I counted a month and a half ago, 97% of the things that goes inside of the composter has been used at least once before. And after putting it on the composter and the compost is done, we just give it back to the producers to fertilize their fields. So kind of like closing the cycle. And we actually learned from Ate, the farmer that Sasu in Maivik, that Sasu was mentioning before, that actually he gave 2 uses to the compost. The first one, he used it to put as a bedding for the cows. It's a biodynamic, so he has like beautiful cows to produce. So he put the bedding, it's very, very spongy, so it attracts a lot of liquid. So when the cows, do their things, they attract it very well. And then he take this, put it on the compost pile, and leave it like a finish to compost in a way, and use it as a fertilizer for the next season. So yeah, the power of waste, not just like for one thing, but can be used for even 2. Sasu was saying before, working sustainably is tough. Yes, it's tough, and there is always like limitations, and there is always problems, and always something is happening, and people is tired, and some people don't believe it in holy water and things like that. But I think, and he touched it there, creativity, it's one of the main points of like how to overcome all this waste and to reduce it. This is actually one of the problems before getting to creativity. We had this, there is a lot of problems that you encounter, but this is one, and I think it was very visual. We had this 4 hands dinner with a guy that was coming to cook. He was a fan of pigeons, and we were like, we got you pigeons, that's no problem. So we spoke with this hunter from a little bit north, and he said, yeah, I have like 40 pigeons, I can send it to you. And we were like, we need them without packaging. Yeah, absolutely, don't put packaging. Make sure it's no packaging. Yeah, we will not accept them. Yes, for sure. It can be carton. We can compost it if it doesn't have print. Yeah, beautiful. We got this box, carton, no prints. Beautiful. We open newspapers. Cool. That's good. And when we took out the newspapers, these were the pigeons that came in it. So I don't want to lie, but I think each pigeon was rolling like 5 to 7 meters of cling film. And it's just a very visual thing to explain how normal waste has become, and how sometimes complicated it is to even understand what we are talking when we are talking about waste. And there is as well problems from our side sometimes. It's not just like on other people, but when we open the restaurant, for example, we had these napkins. Every napkin was done with 2.5 PET water bottles. We're saving the world because we are upcycling water bottles. Beautiful. We put it in social media because we were very proud of it, because we thought, every time that someone dines with us, we imagine the whole amount of bottles that we are saving. Until someone commented and say, I hope you have a very good filter on your washing machines, because if not, you are polluting the ocean full of microplastics. And we were like, shit. Yeah, so once again, education to understand everything that we are doing. And as well, another example of like, maybe it's not enough of just trying to solve the problem, but preventing it. So maybe we should just not use water bottles instead of like thinking what to do with it. I will try to finish quick. Some creativity, kind of like examples. This is wine bottles and water bottles that we've been using at the restaurant for other uses. The one on the left is our like gin bottles that this company has been giving to us, or we've been picking from others. It's our on the rocks glass. Then we have bottle to use as a water, and then we have the bottoms of the wine glasses to use for butter or other things to serve on the table. Food. This is example of using byproduct not from us, but from other companies, because we are doing that as well. We try to reach others to see what they have as a byproduct. This is an example of a dish that we did with bones of a sturgeon. There was, I think they are close already. There was the Finlandia caviar. They were producing caviar. We learned that not just the females were discarded, but one of the biggest problems was the males, because you cannot sex sturgeons until they are like certain age, and then all the males were just like thrown away. So we were trying to get them in, and then we understood that not only the flesh was beautiful, but as well the bones and the fins and everything, very gelatinous. So we were doing this collagen, and then with this collagen we were blending it with herbal to do like a herbal peel, like a nut to the south, as I said before, by just using ingredients. But for example, we use lemon skins, orange skins, we use coffee grounds, all these things we use as well from other businesses to try to reduce as well their waste. This is an example of in-house ingredient. So as I say, we have our nano brewery. In this dish, there is the example of beer used to do caramel. The malts to do the beer become a spent grain. The spent grain is used to do the ice cream. And then this spent grain that is already infused is dried and did as a crumble. So basically one ingredient that is the malts used for three different things. This is our cloth. It's all bed linens from hospitals. Hospital bed linens, we learned that they need to be washed at very high temperature, just for health reasons. And yeah, so they are like very good for kitchen. They are good with fire, if someone is having that in their mind, and it's as well very good because you can wash like in a very high temp. And then one other example as the last one, as I think it's a great example of like networking, as we were mentioning before. It's like our frying goal that we use. We collaborate with this company called Yo Soap, and we make soap for the customers and for the kitchens, like to wash our hands. Here is a little bit of an idea of Nolla. It's extremely important to acknowledge and to say that we are not perfect, even far. There is always everyday problems happen. A computer breaks, and we have a lot of e-waste that we still don't know how to take care of, as an example. But I think that the main point here is like, aside of aiming one day to be 100% zero waste, it's important to just have the aim of being good and working towards like a more sustainable practices. We created, like, I think a lot of techniques and very like robust models of like how to handle waste, but I think we should put more effort on thinking, one, how to prevent it, and second, how this waste we can give another value that it's not just like thrown in landfills or recycled. And yeah, I hope you guys got out something from it, and I hope that next time that we see, I don't need to call myself Nolla Zero Waste Restaurant, and we can call it just restaurant, because what we do is normal. That I guess that it's what everyone wants. Thank you, guys.